Welcome to Afterlife Café TV, connecting hearts, healing souls, and bridging worlds. I'm your host, Helen Peacock, and this is your sacred grounds, a warm, welcoming space where you're invited to take a seat, exhale, and just be. Each week, we will gather cafe style for heartfelt conversations, some mediumship, and maybe some intuitive insights and soulful storytelling that explore the afterlife, some healing, grieving, and the unbreakable bond between us and those in spirit. Here, laughter and tears are both welcome. Love transcends time, and spirit meets us in the most human of ways. So if you're seeking comfort, connection, or a deeper trust in your own inner knowing, you're in the right place. So pour yourself something warm and let's begin. Beautiful souls, and my name is Helen Peacock, and I am your host today, and I'm back with my third solo show. And I'm here to answer some of your questions from the show called Questions to Ask a Medium. And of course, that's me. So welcome, welcome, welcome. And some of you have sent me some really good ones, I do have to say. And so before we get started, just so you know, I'm up north at my cottage country. You may hear some little popcorn noises, which is acorn season. So they're popping everywhere. So I just thought I'd put it out there just so you don't think it's spirit playing around with me. Well, it could be happening too. But anyhow, I also received several questions asking specifically about personal loved ones in spirit. Things like, is my loved one around me, or does my loved one have a message for me? And I completely understand why you'd want to ask those questions, but those move us more into a personal reading rather than a general question about mediumship or the afterlife. But if you happen to call into the show live, I may be able to tap into something for you in that way. But for those Q&A shows, I would just like to say, just to answer their questions that everyone is listening to can learn from or perhaps relate to. So grab your coffee, let's settle in, and let's get into today's questions. So number one question is first of all, if you are here live and you wish to call in, I do have my moderator, Emily. She'll let me know. Telephone number is 1-800-930-2819. And I will say it again, 1-800-930-2819. And I'll say that periodically throughout the show. So, okay. So getting to my questions, this was a very interesting question, I thought, and that is there somewhere after the afterlife? And I absolutely love this question because the truthful answer is none of us can really definitely know until we get there. But from my perspective as a medium, I don't necessarily think of the afterlife as one final destination where we arrive and simply remain exactly as we were forever. Many spiritual beliefs describe consciousness or the soul as continuing to grow, to evolve, and experience different levels of awareness. Now, what I can speak about is what I've experienced through mediumship, and that is, for me, I believe that there is a continuation of consciousness, and our loved ones are no longer physically here in this body, but the connection and the essence of who they are continues. And that's what I love to connect with, right? When I'm doing the mediumship. But what comes after what we call the afterlife, that one's kind of remains as mysteries, right? Those are mysteries, again, until we get there. And there's only so much that we as humans are allowed to know as well. And then just trusting, again, when it comes time to connecting with loved ones, is exactly what is that. Now, I have mentioned this in one of my previous shows, because this is my third one. So hopefully I'm not going to repeat myself too much. And that is to find out more about the afterlife, I do suggest reading Dr. Michael Newton. I've mentioned him before, Life Between Lives. And I think the other one is Journey of the Soul. So I think he has three of them, but that gives you a good sense because he's done case studies with NDEs, with past life regressions, with I guess OBEs, maybe out of body experiences as well. And he's put them all into one book, two books. And so that to me will open up the door, perhaps answer some questions, those mysteries. And maybe part of the difficulty that we may have with our human minds is we want to put a beginning and an ending on everything. Birth, life, death, afterlife, but perhaps consciousness doesn't work in such a straight line, right? So I know it is a challenging question to explain what is the afterlife. I just do know that it's not, I don't believe that it's an actual place. I do believe it's an actual frequency, again, because we're multidimensional beings and in and out of different frequencies, right? So when we do transcend, we obviously move into a higher frequency. And, you know, from books that I've read, teachers that I've had, I do believe that, especially when you do cross over into the afterlife, is that whatever your beliefs are here in the physical realm is what you're going to bring about there, right? Because it's in your toroidal field. That's the energy, that's the frequency in there that you're putting out there, right? And I've actually heard this term, and I kind of like this myself, that perhaps that we are the afterlife living in this realm, right? Because when we do return, we're returning home, right? So I don't know. I'd like to know your thoughts on that. And if you're watching this like after the recording or yeah, after the live and you're on the recording, is feel free to write a comment. I would love that. A comment on my YouTube channel. Just would love to know your thoughts on that as well. So, but yeah, really good question, I have to say, right? Um, and also there's the understanding of the afterlife that changed since becoming a medium for myself. Again, I don't fear the afterlife. I look forward to when that time comes, believe it or not, right? Remembering that maybe the afterlife isn't a destination. Maybe it's simply just another part of the soul's journey. Hey, isn't that the name of the book I just said? The Soul's Journey with Michael Newton. Huh. Okay. So, number two, how do I connect with my loved one who has passed? And again, that is a popular one. And yes, we can. You don't necessarily always need a medium because we can all do what I do. And I think people sometimes believe that they have to be a medium to connect with someone that they love that has passed away. So again, I'm going to reiterate, no, you don't. You don't have to. I don't believe that's true. A connection can be incredibly simple. You can talk to them. You can say their name, look at their photograph, perhaps play their favorite song, um, sit somewhere that reminds you of them, cook their favorite meal, write them a letter, perhaps tell some funny stories, and keeping them a part of your life. And then this is the important part. Don't put pressure on yourself to receive something back, especially in that instant moment. Sometimes you may not get something completely right away. Sometimes it could be coming a little bit later, again, depending on where you are at, right? And sometimes we're looking like so hard for that big sign that we miss the subtle moments, the subtle ones, right? And so if you really want to set the intention, again, it's taking their picture and perhaps setting the intention. That's important as well. Setting the intention, creating this space, whether that's lighting a candle, have a cup of tea, whatever that is, and then just dropping into the heart space, calling them, saying their name, and saying to them, okay, let's have a chat. Let me know you're here. And it can be, again, so subtle. You may even just get the feeling of them coming across. And again, you may smell something that reminds you of them. Um, you could get a vision that may come to you in your third eye, an impression of something. And it's like, oh, I remember that. Something that reminds you of them. Right. And so, yes, we can connect with them in that sense. And to me, again, it's letting them know, and you've heard me say this before, just pick up the phone, metaphorically, of course, pick up the phone and just talk to them because that's what they want, to speak with them, right? And again, it could come through as a familiar scent. It could come as in a way of a vivid dream, a memory that suddenly floods in that they impress on you. Even an animal may appear or something that happens in your immediate thought. That's them, right? It will just come to you. And again, you just know. So hopefully that will add a little bit to your question in regards to can we connect with our loved ones. So yeah. And again, you don't have to receive names and dates or detailed evidence to continue having the connections with someone that you love that's passed, right? Because love, that's the answer. Love doesn't require a medium in order to continue for them, right? That's the key message here. It's all about the love, right? And again, the evidence doesn't have to be so big and so grand. It can be so subtle. Okay. So hopefully that will help. I could go on and on and on with that one as well. Um, you've heard me say, some answers on that in my other shows as well. So okay. So question number 3. Okay, I want to double check with my moderator, making sure if there's any questions there. Okay, so just let me go here. No, so far we're good. Okay. So let's go back to question number 3. Was it? Yeah, question number 3. And that is, okay, so this one, I'm like, how am I going to answer that one? Because it was just a very, very random question, but I had to go there. And that is from one of my viewers. And that is, are the 12 mourning doves sitting in my tree while I sit on my porch a sign? Now, first of all, 12 mourning doves sitting in one tree would certainly get my attention for sure. Okay. But I always say that not everything has to be a sign. And at the same time, something can become incredibly meaningful because of when and how it appears. So instead of immediately saying, yes, those 12 mourning doves are definitely your loved ones, I'd become curious for sure. Perhaps think of it this way. Perhaps what was happening that day. For example, was it a birthday? Was it an anniversary? A milestone? And had you just been thinking about someone when those doves came? Were you going through something personally and needing some reassurance or comfort? And most of all, what did you feel? I love that word. What did you feel when you saw them? And knowing me, I would also look at the number 12. Oh, I got a piece of hair here. Again, it could mean the 12th of a month. It could be the month of December, 12, 1 year. Okay. Again, I mentioned earlier, an anniversary, right? It could also mean, did something happen at 12 midnight or 12 noon? Okay. So again, does 12 mean anything personally to you? Again, is it connected to a date? Is it connected to a birthday, an anniversary, an age, or a memory? Right. And here's another beautiful possibility. Perhaps you were going through something personally, and symbolically, it felt as though your loved ones were just gathering around you to support you, right? So imagine looking out and seeing 12 beautiful mourning doves and having that feeling. I'm not walking alone through this, right? I'm not walking through this alone. And having that comfort being presented to you, right? So whether someone else calls it coincidence, nature, or a sign from spirit, If it immediately brought you comfort or made you think of the people that you love, I think that's something worth paying attention to. So again, I just thought that was a great question. Hopefully it brought you some insight. Maybe there's others out there that may have had something similar, right? So again, it's about what was happening around the time that you received that sign, rather than only looking at the sign itself. So again, hopefully that will help you on that one. 12 doves too. And I love doves. They are messengers to me. You may see me using that a lot in my posts. There's just something about the dove. And to me personally, the dove represents peace, right? And bringing a message. So that's my take. That's on my library. Okay. So question number 4 is asking for very specific signs. And this is from a wonderful client of mine. And this is the one question I'm like, I'm going to see if I can answer this for her. And that is, are very specific signs and receiving them. But reality seems to be telling her something different. And what does she trust? Right? That's what she's asking. What do I trust? Right? So the question came in, and I thought, this is such a good one for sure. And this person had asked for several things very specific and pretty random signs. So, for example, I'm just going to share what she shared. And that is, I'm not sure if she just used them as examples or those are the ones that she was using for her loved ones. And that was flamingos, sunflowers, and elephants. And yes, you know who you are because I'm saying your signs. And they appeared, right? So each one seemingly giving her the yes that she had asked for. But here's the interesting part. The person's actions and what's happening in her physical reality seem to be saying something different to her. Again, so how do you know whether the signs are true? So for me, there's an incredibly important distinction between receiving a sign and interpreting a sign. Okay. So you can ask to see a flamingo and suddenly a flamingo appears. And that experience may absolutely feel synchronistically or meaningful, but we are still the ones deciding what we believe that flamingo means. So perhaps it wasn't saying, yes, the situation is going to work out exactly the way that you want it to. Maybe it was simply saying, yes, you're being heard, or yes, you are supported. Yes, pay attention, right? Or perhaps there's something here that you're meant to experience or to learn from, right? And so these are very different messages. So again, it's kind of like saying signs versus actions. And this is probably the most important part. I would never use a spiritual sign to override what somebody is consistently showing me through their actions. So if we're asking about a relationship, a friendship, a job, or anything involving another human being, there's something that we have to remember, and this is important, okay? They also have free will, okay? They have free will too. A sign doesn't remove another person's free will, okay? So hopefully that makes sense. If someone's behavior is consistently showing you one thing, I wouldn't encourage you to ignore what you're experiencing in the physical world because you saw the flamingo and you asked spirit to send it. Instead, again, like I mentioned before, I would become curious. So for example, let's say, what if the sign is actually about them? What if the sign is about you, right? It's not about them. It's about you. So instead of asking, is this person or situation going to work out? How about maybe asking, what is this sign trying to help me understand? And another really important question to keep in mind is, am I interpreting this through my intuition? Okay. Or through what I'm hoping will happen. So you look at it this way, intuition versus wishful thinking. And yes, we all go there because I've done it myself, right? Especially when we're on this journey, right? So intuition usually doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to scream at us. It's actually often very subtle. It's often very quiet. And you've heard me say this before, it's a knowing. It's an inner knowing. You don't know how to explain how you know, you just know, right? So fear, attachment, and wishful thinking can feel very different, right? Perhaps you keep asking, are you sure? How about giving me another sign? Okay, how about one more? Right? It's just like we're still guessing, or we're still wanting more, always wanting more of the answer. And then suddenly we're asking spirit for flamingos, elephants, sunflowers, and everything else because we're trying to collect enough evidence to make ourselves feel safe about an outcome. I was going to say income, about an outcome. And sometimes the most intuitive thing that we can do is stop asking for another sign and observe what's actually happening, right? So trust the sign, but don't automatically assume that you know what the sign is saying, right? We get caught up in that. So, because again, spirit may be getting your attention without necessarily promising the outcome you're hoping for. And sometimes the clearest, right, isn't just the flamingo, the sunflower, the elephant. Sometimes the clearest sign is what's happening right in front of you. So I'll leave it there. It was a little bit of a challenging question, but I loved it. And I know why the person had asked that, because it's something that she's going through. So hopefully, I don't know if you're watching live, but hopefully that will help in that sense, right? So again, it's knowing intuition versus wishful thinking, right? So there you go. So that was a good question. I had to go there. I had to answer that one for sure. Okay, so just let me check in. Okay. So I'm going to move on to, which one do I want to do? Okay. I'm going to try and answer this one. Will my loved one still come through? Will my loved one still come through even if we're not getting along, or things were left undone before they passed? And I'm going to be honest with you, that does come up a lot. And yes, absolutely they can. And I think this is something that many people quietly carry within themselves after somebody passes, right? Death doesn't only happen when relationships are beautifully resolved. People pass while families aren't speaking. They pass after arguments. They can become estranged, right? There could be some many misunderstandings, and there are things that we have said that we wish that we could take back, right? You have all those regrets, the wouldas, the shouldas, and the couldas, right? And there are things that we desperately wish that we had the opportunity to say. I'm just going to say they know all your thoughts now. So just keep that in mind. They know all your thoughts. They know what had taken place just before they transitioned. Okay. And those circumstances do not automatically prevent someone from coming through. I'm going to say that again. Just because you had a falling out does not mean they're not going to try to come through. Okay. That's very important. Everyone knows that. Okay. In fact, sometimes the unresolved relationship itself becomes part of the communication when I'm communicating with the loved ones in spirit. And I think there's something that's really important to remember here. And that is, you didn't have to have a perfect relationship in life for love to still exist after death. Okay, relationships are complicated. Why? Because people are complicated. Let's face the facts. It's so true. We are complicated beings, right? It's being part of the human existence. And if you are carrying guilt because your final conversation wasn't what you wanted it to be, or because something remained unresolved, try not to allow that one moment or that one chapter to define the entire relationship. Okay. Please, please, please remember that, because you can still talk to them. You can still tell them what you didn't get to say. You can still apologize. You can still tell them that you love them. And sometimes forgiveness after somebody passes isn't only about forgiving that person that died. Sometimes it's about forgiving ourselves, right? If you forgive yourself first and then forgiving them, and usually there, if it was the other way around, they wish to come through and hoping that you will forgive them. And that also helps with the, I call it the ripple effect, right? It's so if you heal, they heal, and then everyone else in the family also heals, right? It's the ripple effect, because we're all connected. We are all connected. I will say that again. We are all connected. Okay. So please trust that your loved ones most likely will come through. Again, if you weren't getting along, if there was an argument, even if they were estranged and you had talked to them for many, many years, again, it's part of our evolution. It's part of who we are. It's part of being human. Okay. So I really truly love that question. Um, I have mentioned in the past, yes, I'm all about helping others to tap into your own intuition. I'm all about guiding and helping others for your mediumship, having your own connection. So, yes, I did create online courses for that. I will be posting very soon on my website. It's a mini course, from grief to grace. And this is so really dear to my heart. So that will be, again, it's just a mini course, but it will be available online very soon. Just working out the tweaks with my assistant. So there's that. I do want to mention before I close, I know 30 minutes. Who knew? It goes by so fast. Okay. So my next guest, August 11th, her name is Holly Porter, and she's going to share her story regarding her NDE, near death experience. She's written a book as well. So I'm excited. So please join me live next Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So just going through my list here, making sure that I've mentioned things. I mentioned my course. Yeah, if you want to know some more deets, if you want to receive inspirational stories and other podcasts, book references, things like that. Did I mention upcoming events? Please subscribe to my website, helenpeacock.ca. That way, I've been negligent for the last 2 weeks just because I've been doing a little bit of Helen time. Hence why I'm up here, up north. You can tell with the background is very cottagey like. Yeah, so subscribe there if you wish to. And again, if you're watching this in the recording, please, please, please feel free to leave a message down in the comments. And if you have any questions, I'll add it to the fourth show that I do. So I just want to thank you so much for spending part of your morning with me today. Again, whether you joined me live or if you're watching the recording. And I hope somewhere in today's conversation that there was an answer for you, or maybe simply a different way of looking at something that brought you a little comfort, perhaps some curiosity or reassurance. And if you're watching the recording again on my YouTube channel, I'm going to say it again. Please, please, please leave a comment. And again, like, subscribe, and share, because you never know who in your life may be carrying one of these very same questions and who needs to hear something that we had talked about today. And maybe that's a good thought to leave with you. What do you think? Okay. So we don't have to understand everything about what happens after we die to recognize that love has a remarkable way of continuing again. It just continues in a different way. It's one of my favorite sayings. Okay. So until next time, keep trusting the little nudges and stay curious. And I'll see you here on the flip side. I want to thank you for tuning in to Afterlife Café TV, connecting hearts, healing souls, and bridging worlds. I'm Helen Peacock, and I am so grateful, yes, it makes my heart sing, that you chose to spend this time here with me. So to continue the connection, I do invite you to tune in to the Transformation Talk Radio every Tuesday at 11 a.m. for new episodes. And you can also visit my website at helenpeacock.ca to find out more about my sessions, group readings, yes, even Zoom group readings, and perhaps some events I may be holding. And also, there will be a course on your psychic development, mediumship development, if you're interested in that. And just know that there are more ways to gather in our Sacred Grounds community, where you can also, again, find me at helenpeacock.ca. So, if this episode touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe. It does help the space reach others who may need it too. So until next time, trust the signs, stay curious, and remember, love never ends. It's just different.